morning, Prof. Happy Sunday.
But at least you didn't say new month. Good morning, Bibby. And I can see that somebody is back from somewhere.
I know.
Background.
Don't remind me. Viewers, good morning to you. Yes, I'm back at home. So great to be back. It was good to be away.
Wherever you were.
And I think, you know what? We can give a shout out to Tifa. She was Tifa's 50th birthday. Happy birthday again, Tifa.
Happy birthday, Tifa.
But yes, it was good. Great. So good to be back. Prof, how are you? How was your week? I mean, I'm
sorry,
don't ask me the same question.
People are wondering who that is. If you go back in the archives, you see the person that was standing on the word and standing.
Yes, and he used all the standing as rhymes. You know, like he was just rapping different things. But yes. Prof, don't ask me how I am or how my week was, because yes, you already know how it was. So, but yes, tell us, how was your week? Did you have a good one?
Mine was good. It was a good week. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff going on around us in Europe. But apart from that, great week as always. But I'm more interested in hearing how yours has been, especially since you had a different week from what you had last week. Or the week before.
Oh, Prof, you know what? Except you want to make this whole episode about how my week was, because I don't think I have enough time to tell you how great it was. But I can just say that so grateful to God for good life, good family, good friends, time away. And then I had the opportunity, actually, for the very first time in so many years, I had the opportunity of being in the same house, under the same roof with the rest of my family. Every single one of us, except for my dad, was late. God rest his soul. But yeah, so for me, it was really good. It was a great time, a great week away from the cold weather, and we're dealing with 38 degrees, 40 degrees.
I like how you skipped the entire last week and went to the week before. I mean, never mind that you've been back home for last week and you just know.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because in my mind, I brought so much heat with me that I still retain it. So as far as I'm concerned, for the next 3 weeks or 4 weeks, I'm still in that temperature. So, but yeah, it was really good. Thank you. Viewers, thank you for joining us this morning. It's great to have you on the show. As we always say, this is your favorite and our favorite Sunday morning show. And it's time to let your friends and family know that we are live and they should come and join us on the show this morning. Thank you so very much again for joining. Prof, you wouldn't believe this. A few people I met back in Nigeria when I went last week actually said to me that, they don't actually live in this country. They live in Nigeria. And apparently they had come across some of our episodes on SonRise. And they had very great feedback to give. So that really made my heart so joyful, You just never know. And viewers, this has to be for you that show up every single week to see what we have for you. Thank you for the support. Thank you. Keep them coming. We really do appreciate them. All right, Prof, the whole of last week was about celebrating with friends, being with family and all of that and everything. And then there was something that just came during that period. It was more around, friends and enemies. And you'd ask me, what does that mean? Friends and enemies. But the question I have for you this morning really is, how do we differentiate between a friend and an enemy? How do you say, what is the difference between a friend and an enemy? So I'll give you an example. So let's say I got dressed, ready for a party, and maybe I had wardrobe malfunction. So maybe my skirt tore or something. And I walked out with my friends, and no one actually told me anything about it. But someone on the street saw me and kind of just stopped me. All of a sudden, I said, "Look at your dress. Can you not see it's all ripped and whatnot?" At that point in time, I could be like, "Hang on, what's your problem? So why did you have to talk to me like that?" And that person could immediately become an enemy to me. But mind you, I am in the midst of my friends. And so I expected that maybe they would have seen that thing and they didn't see it, or they saw it and they just didn't think there was any need of saying it. So it's like, how do we then say, this is a friend, this is an enemy?
When you first asked the question, viewers would have seen the quizzical look on my face because I thought, is this a trick question? Surely everybody knows who they call a friend and who they call an enemy.
Well,
for example, was very helpful because I of course, I understand exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
It's not as straightforward as we think it is, right? Because, and that's why we're having this discussion, because of course, when we're on this show, everything we talk about is for a purpose. There's a reason we talk about it, and there's always more to it than meets the eye. And so friendship versus enmity, if you like, or a friend versus an enemy, how does one define them? You know, the funny thing, the very first thing that strikes me about both terms, and I hope is the same for other people, is that both are looked at from one person's perspective, right? It's from the perspective of the person doing the defining. This is not an objective term at all. There's nothing objective that is called a friend, or nothing objective that is called an enemy. It's all down to the perception of the person who is talking about them. And you know the thing about perceptions. Perception is not reality. Sometimes it can be so far from reality that it's not even funny. Perception can be shaped by so many things. It can be shaped by how we feel at that time. It can be shaped by what's happening around us at the time we are looking at the thing. It can be shaped by mis and disinformation, by so many things, which is why perception is not really the best way to make any sort of decision. And yet we categorize people. We make decisions about how people think, and about people's intentions based on incomplete knowledge and perception. So that's the thing, right? So when we talk about somebody being a friend or an enemy, what we're saying is that due to a combination of bits of information here and there, how I'm feeling, whether I've had a good or a bad day, maybe things that other people have told me about you, using that as a context to interpret your actions allows me to decide what you have in mind concerning me. Because when we say somebody's a friend or an enemy, what we're in essence really saying is we're passing judgment, if you like, on their intentions, on their intents, not their actions, for their intents. Because look, a friend and an enemy can do exactly the same thing, in quotes. Two people can do the same thing, right? But depending on how you classify the person, you would interpret the action differently. So that judgment of calling somebody a friend or another person an enemy is not really about what they've done. It's more about what we think they're thinking and how they see us and what they think about us. And so we use it as as a gauge of possible future behavior, right? Because then that says if I assess that this person's intent concerning me, it means that in a future situation, in future hypothetical situation, they are going to act in such a way that is against my best interests. Against the person who is. So the question is that really justified? In many cases, I mean, don't get me wrong, in a good number of cases, that is absolutely justified. But in many cases, sometimes it's not justified for the reasons I've mentioned. Because in our categorization of people in that particular way, we are relying on information that is both incomplete and imperfect. Right? And that means, therefore, you could find a particular individual and classify and think that the person has it in for you, that the person has something negative in mind for you. Meanwhile, nothing of the sort. It's just the way you perceived it based on where you are, what's happening with you, other things happening around you, and maybe what you've been told by other people. If you meet somebody and everybody tells you, oh, nobody likes that person is mean, that's already colored your perception. So whatever else you do, you're already interpreting. So, but anyway, I know we have to go to Spotlight Minute and we'll talk about this again when we come back. But I think just to set that context, friendship, enmity, for us or against us, many times, not all the time, but many times, it's all about perception.
Oh, well, that's really good to know. And it's a good way to end this segment. Viewers, don't go anywhere. When we come back, it will be our Spotlight Minute. We'll see you shortly.
See you.
The Egyptians relentless on our trail. The Red Sea impassable in our fall. Between a rock and a hard place. Insurmountable, unnavigable, untraversable the terrain might be. Yet, the voice of He who set the world in motion I hear. In the midst of darkness He speaks light Trapped in a repetitive cycle the days have seemed, but now I hear him say, turn you northwards. I hear him say, go forward, for I will make a way where there seems to be no way. Against all odds, 2022 is our year to advance. The prophetic word from heaven over our lives in this new year is advance. The Red Sea will part, the Jordan will back up, the rocks, the mountains will give way. All he requires of you is to advance in faith. In the face of daunting odds, advance. It is your time to advance. Go forward.
Hi, Busola. Good morning to you.
Hello, good morning. Good morning, Minister Zuby. Good morning, BBJ.
Welcome back to the show.
Welcome to our favorite spotlight guest.
I know.
Appearance number 3 or 4. You love this week, and we love having you. So welcome.
Yes, we do, and our viewers do as well. Viewers, please make welcome Busola this morning. She's come back again on our spotlight segment. Busola, you've come at the very right time because we have a special segment now for on SonRise now, and that is where we are looking at hearing a bit more about people's stories, experiences, and even learning from those experiences. And so this morning, we'd like to ask you, is there any experience at all that you would like to share with us and our viewers this morning?
Of course, and glory be to God. I wanted to talk about how God blessed me with the job of my dreams, but what was so fantastic about this was because it came through someone that I least expected it to come through.
Oh, wow. That's definitely interesting to me to hear. I really want to hear more about that, and I'm sure our viewers wants to hear as well as Prof. So please, can you tell us a bit more about that?
All right. So guys, literally, I got to a point last year where I needed to change my job because it has started, my job was so stressful when it started affecting my health. And I resigned without having any other job. It was that important to me. But what happened was, that there was a partner in my firm that prior to that time I had, I thought didn't like me. I thought, it just made things really difficult to the point at several times over my career or over my time that I contemplated resigning because of that, the situation. But however, when I put in my resignation letter, this same individual went above and beyond to give me, like she said, the job of my dreams. So the main reason why I resigned was because I needed more time. I needed more flexibility, the whole work-life balance. So at the end of the day, he fought for me. I really don't know why, but he fought for me to get the hours I wanted, the pay I wanted, and all other terms, and so really I think what I took from this was, Lord, sometimes when you're in a difficult situation, or facing a mountain or something that you think, is difficult, you don't really know what to do. Sometimes God will remove you from that situation because it's not a battle that he wants you to fight. Sometimes he removes that person from that situation, but sometimes he keeps you in that situation because this is a stepping stone. You might see it as, as a stumbling block or something, but really it's a stepping stone that you need to go through it. So I just want to encourage everybody, sometimes you have to go through the fire.
Wow. Do you know, that definitely is something very interesting, and I'm sure a lot of people probably can relate to that. Maybe some people are actually even going through the same thing at the moment with one particular individual in their workplace. So maybe viewers, maybe this is God speaking to you to be a bit more mindful of that individual. Don't think that they are there to get rid of you or to kill you, because God might use them for you again. But Busola, you share this experience with us, and it's one powerful one there. How did this experience, or why did it have such an impact on you?
Like I said, it was mostly because it was the individual that that the blessing came through. We hadn't really. I just didn't think that he would stand up for me the way he did, and in terms of even the contract, it was something that we have contractors at the firm, but the terms of the contract was something no one had done you know, for anyone there. So I didn't expect that he would fight for me in places that I wasn't there, you know, and yeah, so yeah, I think that was just what I took. And it also made me, you know, see him or see the person in a different light, see challenges or, you know, situations in a different light. Sometimes you have to step back and, you know, ask God, Lord, you know, rather than want the person to be removed, you know, is actually so, yeah.
So, I mean, that's like, I don't know, Prof, if this is your view as well, that's like what the Bible says, that when your ways are pleasing to God, it will make your enemies to be at peace with you. I'm not saying it was your enemy, by the way, but I mean, one could say,
I think you knew what I was going to say right there.
Yes, you know, so like, yeah, maybe, you know, this is someone that you thought that was actually there to push you out by all means and everything, and he's going way beyond every single thing that you needed to do and making things happen for you. Of course, that's God at work there. But thank you so much. So for our viewers this morning, what would be that one takeaway that you would like them to take away from your experience?
Be bold, don't look at every situation as, you know, every negative situation. It might not be a negative situation, it might just be a blessing in disguise, you know. So just, you know, hold on to God and yeah, and he'll let you know whether this is something he wants, you know, he wants you to fight or he wants you to stay or he wants you to move.
Yeah. Wow, fantastic. Thank you so very much. Viewers, you've heard it. You know, embrace all situations because you just never know what God wants to do with each one of them. Thank you again, Busola, for joining us this morning. Viewers, please love on Busola. We will be having you back very soon again. So yes, thank you, and we'll see you in service, okay?
The prophetic word from heaven over our lives in this new year is advance. It is your time to advance. Go forward.
Welcome back, viewers, and thank you for joining us. If you're just joining us right now, you really do want to watch the first couple of segments before this segment on the show afterwards, because trust me, we started talking about something very interesting. Busola, my goodness, you know, it's so weird, Prof. I don't know whether you saw the same thing, what we were talking about exactly, you know, and then Busola came online and then started to talk about something similar. You ended this first segment on, you know, the definition of friendship or enmity is based on perception. And from Busola's experience, we can actually say that in a way, it was initially she thought this guy was completely against her, you know, because she got to the point of wanting to leave the organization. But in the end, it turned out that this same guy got used to get the job of her dream to her, you know. So, Prof, this is a good time to pick up from where you stopped, you know, talking about how this is all based on perception. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you. So I think that's really apt. Obviously, what we are not saying, we recognize that people can change. Right, so it's entirely possible for somebody to start off having a negative intent in their heart, and then they change, and that can be the case. The thing is, without knowing what's in their heart and without them telling us the case that this is the case, it's still perception, right?
It is.
But the bottom line is, I think that I just wanted to make the point that the power, in essence, is in our hands, right? In many cases, a person is against us because we have called them that, right? It doesn't necessarily change the actions that they're going to take, but we've now said that they are against us, and that's how we've named them. On the other hand, as well, if you've decided that somebody is for you, it almost doesn't matter what the person does, you still say, yeah, it's for me, right?
There for you, yes.
So it's really about the power that lies in our hands and in our mouths and in our tongues and in our minds, as to how we choose to define that situation and to label it. If we must label it, then how we choose to label it. And then the second thing is about being careful how we label it. We understand that if we talk about perceptions can be made and they can be changed, right?
Yes.
The good thing for us is that there are at least two people that know at least one person, but usually two people in this sort of situation that know what the reality is.
Yes.
The one person that certainly knows what the reality is God. Because sometimes even the other person doesn't quite know what's going on in their own heart.
What's going on in their own,
But usually the other person also does know, right? But more often, the people that are making the judgment at perception, which will be us, are the ones that are least knowledgeable about what's going on. And yet, here we are making those judgments. So I think that the thing to consider is that because, number one, God is the person that knows what the reality is, there is always that call to defer to his better judgment.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that was what Busola was saying. At the end of the day, if you look at the Bible, you will see when mountains are talked about, there are a number of different ways that you see mountains being addressed. Right? If you go to Zechariah, book of Zechariah, chapter 4, you see where the mountain has been commanded to become a plain.
Yeah.
In the Gospels, you hear Jesus talking about asking the mountain to move. In the book of Joshua, you see where the Bible talks about Caleb asking, "Give me this mountain and I will take it."
Take it. Yes.
Right? So, and that's the thing. Not all mountains not all mountains need to become plains, and not all mountains need to be conquered. Right?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And you know what? There are some mountains, you go in the book of Deuteronomy, where reading Numbers and then Deuteronomy, you see where they were asked to go around a mountain.
Mountain, yes.
Yeah. So sometimes you go around the mountain, sometimes you command the mountain to be leveled.
So would you say then it is key that we actually get to know exactly what God wants us to do in any situation? Because that's the only way you would know whether you need to go around it.
Right? Yes. Yes, exactly. And so if you describe the mountain, right, as the actions of the other person, it becomes less about, you see, because in this case, nobody's talking about what the mountain is feeling or what the mountain is trying to do. It's irrelevant. It's almost irrelevant what the other person is thinking or what their intention concerning you is or not. That's not what should matter. What matters is what God's intention for you is and what his instruction to you is. Because there are times, yes, you go head to head with that mountain, with the actions of the other person. Again, it's not about the person. So you're not coming with, "Oh, I oppose you, I hate you." It's none of that. I'm opposing the action you're taking. "Oh, I'm full of love for you as Christ loves the world, but I'm opposing your action." Sometimes the instruction is just walk around it, or walk around it, sidestep it, go around the mountain. Sometimes it's about neutralizing that action completely so that the mountain becomes a plain, completely, neutralizing and taking it out of the equation. And then sometimes it's about moving the mountain, right? And just taking it out of place. So I think that going back to this question of how we define, or whether a person is for us or against us.
Yes.
If we talk about this story of Joshua as well, we're all familiar with the story of the children of Israel and Jericho. The day before that battle, or that event that we described, the marching around the city. So when Joshua and the army had encamped there, Joshua saw somebody who was dressed like a general, and then went to the person and said, "Who goes there?" I'm just making this bit up. But in essence, he asked the person, "Are you for us or
against us?" Yes.
Because that's how we tend to think, right? We always tend to think it's either you're for me or you're against me.
Yeah.
Look at the answer that he got. The person said, "Neither. As the commander of the Lord's army, I'm here today." So the question you're asking me is irrelevant, right? It's not about whether the mountain is for you or a mountain is against you. I've come in here as the person that understands the reality, and I'm here to deal with the situation and take it over and to commandeer it to do what God's purpose and God's will is. And so when we look at that, then it becomes less about whether, a person, because look, we can speculate all we like. I've been there, you've been there, everybody's been there. You spent all your time thinking, "Oh, this person has it in for me," and you're asking, you couldn't be more wrong. And sometimes it's the opposite. You think, "Oh, this person has my best interest at heart," and you're also wrong. So maybe we it's a discipline. It's not easy because it's a natural thing for us, like Joshua, to say, "Are you for us or against us? Are you for me or against me?" But sometimes in our faith paradigm, it's about, as the commander of the Lord's army, as the executor of God's will, I have come. It's about dealing with this mountain and making it conform to God's will. So not about the person, whether you're for me or against me, it doesn't matter. Whatever it is you do, there's a way for that mountain to work for you.
To work for you, absolutely, Prof. Thank you very much for ending it so nicely like that. So viewers, if you were to walk into someone who you expected to greet you and they didn't, don't just think that they're your enemy or whatnot. Just take it as, take that person out of the situation. What is most important is what God would have you do in that situation. Prof, this has been great. Busola, thank you so much for joining us. It is time for service, and Prof, as always, please take us into service.
Thank you, Bibby. It's the first Sunday in March, and Pastor Temi is back.
Yay!
And we know that this month is the month to thrive, as you know, we heard and prayed about. And so, you know what? I know that there is something that is coming up for us, something interesting, something powerful. It's Communion Sunday, of course, so there's a lot going on today. But you know what? Let's not waste any more time. Without further ado, let's go straight to the Rock Tower. There's a feast that is set for us. Enjoy.
Yes. See you in service. Bye.